A Philadelphia council member wants to make the city a gaming destination. We're talking about video games. Today, council member Isaiah Thomas discussed the first ever PHL Gaming Task Force report. The report suggests the gaming market is expected to reach $90 billion by 2029. It goes on to say investing in gaming can significantly diversify Philadelphia's tax base and stimulate job creation.
We want to compete with other cities, whether they're in Canada, whether they're in the South. We want to compete with other cities to be known as the city that's the home for gaming.
The gaming report suggests the city find ways to expand esports among young people, as well as supporting the creation of more co-working spaces for game creation.
Welcome, y'all. Right. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm your host, That Kid Pounds, and I'm here with
your boy Khenan Newton, is assistant director of PGM.
And what else are you a part of? I know you're part of Plot Armor Studios.
Yeah. Plot Armor Studios is my studio that I founded. We released a couple small games, one of them being Third Power on Steam, and we're working on what I would call our flagship title called FLO, which is a action adventure roguelike featuring combo customization.
Y'all heard that? Combo customization.
Yeah. There's more to it too. You know, I'm all about injecting the Black diaspora into video games and like having that and anime content in general. So yeah, I'm very proud of working on that, and hopefully I can get that to be something that kind of just spearheads a movement along with some other creatives that I'm following.
Yeah, we love to hear that. You love to hear that. So, what is the whole aspect of this video? You guys are probably wondering, which is we are doing a follow-up interview with the one and only Khenan Newton on what happened a couple of weeks ago back in Philadelphia in regards to the PHL Gaming hearing that took place in City Hall for City Council members. So to start us off,
okay, go.
No, you good.
You can go. I thought you were asking me a question.
No, it's all good. Just giving people the context in case they are unfamiliar. But okay, so let's jump into question one. But before we jump into question one, I just want to quickly say shout out to PHL, shout out to the Philly Gaming Task Force, Council Member Isaiah Thomas, as well as their Chief of Staff, Dom Miller. Now, I had to let that breathe real quick so y'all could think about those wonderful people and what is happening in Philadelphia. So with that being said, let's jump into question one. So, Khenan, what inspired you to advocate for city funding in the gaming industry? And what impact do you believe it could have on our local community?
Yeah, so I'm going to try not to be long-winded with this one. So, just in general, let's create like a quick anime backdrop real quick with like some sakuras like floating down into the ether. Like so growing up, let's say like 16 years old, like a high school. I was living in the suburbs of Philly, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to really do with my skills. I was really good at drawing by the time I was in high school. I had been drawing for years at that point, and I was like, all right, like let me try to be a game concept artist. So I practiced concept art for like 8 and 9 years after that point. And after having done that, still didn't really understand exactly what it looked like to even use my skills to get into the game industry. I just like got the skills and that's it. And a big part of the reason why is because there really weren't many game studios like around that were really like that I could aspire to like use my skills within. It's like I always imagine like, hey, if I really wanted to get into the game industry, I had to go to California, and that just didn't seem realistic to me. So I never really dug super deep into doing that. So it always seemed like I had to like commit to like, trying to get into like Bethesda or like Ubisoft or something like that, you know, and like, that being such like a huge undertaking, I just didn't, I didn't do my homework, but I was discouraged. You know what I'm saying? And being young, you just get there discouraged pretty easily, I suppose. But that being said, if we get funding, into the gaming industry in Philadelphia, and we see more studios pop up, Drexel's game development program churns out more talent, that becomes like a pipeline from like schools to studios. If we have that environment, for me, when I was like, 16, 17, 18, being able to see myself getting into the gaming industry would have been a lot easier. And I'm sure it would have been a lot easier for other, students around my age, around that time. So yeah, I just don't like the fact that we don't have what Cali has over here. And in terms of impact, so like I was just saying, like if we get like collaborations between like Drexel and the city, to like run programs, to set up pipelines and systems for students to get into the industry, and like to get more game studios to pop up in general, that would create an economy around Philadelphia that would keep our students from having to look at California as like the only way out, to get into the industry. And I think that's honestly the number one thing. That's the most important thing. It's like we have people here that make games. Like we go to school and we learn how to make games, but it's like, what do we do with it over here? And that's what I can see changing for the, on the most, being the most important thing that we change.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's my answer to your question.
No, that was great. That was a great answer. And I would say that would be extremely powerful for the community to have that access to like studios and job security and job options in regards to the gaming industry. And you hit the nail on the head. Also, this makes me think back to a conversation we had a long time ago, at this point, maybe 2 years ago, about getting involved with the city and seeing what the city would do for the context of gaming. Actually, I think I'm trying to remember back on
now
which
we're talking
video
about
that was. Yeah, the talking, and I mean, we did it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're here now, and now we just gotta keep it moving.
Exactly. And then that leads me to my next question for you too, which is, how do you see the gaming industry contributing to economic growth and job creation within our city?
Yeah, another big one. So, yeah, contributing to economic growth. So, the gaming industry is huge. If for anybody who don't know the numbers, I think it's like in 2023, gaming made like $69 billion in America alone. Which if you take movies, TV, music all together, it still doesn't get to $69 billion. Like the music industry, I believe is something like 27 billion. Movies is something like 16 billion, or like don't quote me directly on these numbers. All I know is that it added together is less than what games made, right? And so like, let me paint a picture for you. So say we grow some studios in Philadelphia. Say we do something like what Montreal, Canada has done, and like provide tax incentives for game studios. So that means like indie studios, AAA studios, providing funding for them. I believe it was something up to like 37.6% that Montreal will subsidize for studios. Is like they have like a program that they can apply for. So like 37.6% that they'll subsidize for production costs. Like straight up just making a game, 37% subsidized by the government of Montreal, Canada. And so like, and because of things like that, you can have studios like Ubisoft over there, that want to move over there and be like, yo, okay, like, yeah, we can set up over here because we're getting, benefits over here that we aren't getting from anywhere else. and it makes it just simpler and easier to do business. So say we have, studios like Ubisoft come over here. Like, if I don't think you understand, or many people understand the impact it would be to have just a couple, like 2, 3 AAA studios set up base over here, and provide jobs. It's like, because AAA studios tend to hire locally more than anything. It's like they're not going to come over here and then start hiring from California. They're going to come over here and then look for local talent to, be their senior and mid-level programmers, their producers, and if we don't already have that over here, which we do, people are going to move over here, and then so that's more tax dollars that come into the city. And then you got things like how these AAA studios can they can set up events, like they sponsor entire events. They bring demos of their new hot games that they're coming out, and they run them at these events. You can have something at the Philadelphia Convention Center, and that would just bring tourism. So at that point, and I'm talking about like tax benefit, tax growth, tax benefits. I'm not saying it correctly. Tax revenue, yeah, tax revenue to the city.
Okay.
Tourism revenue to the city. Of course, job creation. And then once you have job creation around here, you're keeping the tax dollars from the employees themselves. The population grows or stabilizes better. And there's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of different talent involved, different skill sets involved, and that can do nothing but do well for the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
I think that
answer.
could. I think that's a great answer, and I think you're right about that. In all regards, it would all around just make Philadelphia a stronger city altogether, and it also would help to diversify our different infrastructure and income revenues for job opportunity for the city as well, as you've already mentioned. But still, like those are some very strong points, and more diversity in economic growth and movement, I say, is always welcomed. Um, that being said,
Yeah,
though, we'll skip ahead. Skip ahead because one of the questions we basically already answered in that. You did a great
yeah,
job of that. But what
oh, for sure.
challenges do independent game developers face without adequate funding or local support?
Not being able to complete projects,
Hmm.
like making games is tough, especially by yourself. Um, Making games on teams is tough. It's hard to bring together a group of talented people that can make things happen if they don't have the money going towards it. It's simple enough. Like, we have tons of devs in Philadelphia. Like I said, I'm the assistant director of PGM. It's a Philly Game Mechanics. So like we run events like game jams, play testing nights regularly. Like all across Philadelphia, people come and they make their games and they bring them and they test them, and it's just all fun and games. Most of for the most part, because that's what our developers have time for, right? When they're working on like big, long-winded projects, those things can get cumbersome. They start needing more resources to go towards them, and they simply don't have the resources, or at least like if they are doing that, it takes them years, to complete larger projects. If it takes them years to complete those larger projects, and then they launch it, and then it's not successful, which is not uncommon when making games. You just have a slow attrition, a slow pipeline of anything happening, for any of these indie devs. So you have devs making small games that, might not be super marketable, but they can make them in like a week, 2 weeks, a month. Or you have people making big games that like they launch them after like 4 years of working on it. Or it might even really not be that big, but it might be like a quality project, but it's still like it takes time to make those things. So these are the toughest challenges amongst our game developers, I feel like. And if they were to be getting like some funding to like say like $10,000, right, to help them be able to know life a project for like 3 or 4 months, that would put us in position to be able to launch projects with, up to a certain echelon to be able to start competing in the global market of small games. And I think that is a step forward, would be a huge step forward for our community. And then also, then you can start talking about bigger grants, 70,000, 100,000, 200,000 to start employing some teams at this point to make even more like higher echelon projects over longer periods of time. And then you start competing even more. So that being said, though, even without some of these resources, we still do have game developers in our community who have launched small games that have been high quality and have made sales. So honestly, we need to just double down on it, I feel like. And then, and that's what that would be a result, of what we're already seeing. You double down on it, you put money into it, you just get more of it.
I hear what you're saying, and I feel like that is what a good entrepreneur does. They find what works and then they double down and keep making it better. So
That's when you.
you
That's
know we
what
already know it works.
that would be the. Yep. Yeah. That would be the impact. That's the answer to your question. That like we're not being doubled down on. That's our problem.
Yeah, and I think like also 70 to 100K, which might be a lot depending on how you look at it, or little depending on how you look at it. But even so, even if it was like 50 to 20K, it would be like life changing to the completion of a project and small studio.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like with 20, 30, 50K, like you can have a couple people work on a project for, like let's say like 4 to 6 months, right? Then they can so people with talent, they can get things done in that amount of time.
For real. Get a bunch done. A bunch done. Wow. So, with that being said, how can gaming serve as a tool for education, skill development, and workforce readiness, especially for younger generations?
Dude, man. Um, the reason why I'm pausing and hesitating here is just because like it's unbelievable. It is it's just like when you make a game, there are so many different aspects that come together. So many different skill sets. You got art, and under art you have different branches. You got technical art, which is just like, shaders, all the programming behind like making things look good, graphics, 3D modeling, animation, 2D concept art, environment illustration, character illustration, silhouettes. There are just so many things under that one category. You got music, you got sound design, you got production, business development, marketing. What else we got? Of course, programming. And under programming, there's web development that can get involved in game development. There are just so many different things where it's like you can look at a college, look at their programming and the different courses that they offer, and probably apply it to something in game development. And that's the point I want to get across. It's like any talent that we are raising here in Philadelphia, if they want to get into game development, there's probably something for them to do that they can eventually get paid for in game development to do. And when it comes to students, it's like, oh, you're into accounting? You can account for a game company. It's like, so it's like any young person that has any sort of aspiration growing up, like, game development can be an avenue for that aspiration. It's like the possibilities are endless. Honestly, it's really honestly it's really honestly foolish for anybody to know this stuff, and if they have money, not put money towards it. That's really my message. It's just like, it's so beneficial. For young people, for people, for veterans, there's so much opportunity out of it. People play video games nonstop. The market's still fresh. There's so many different things that can be explored. Dude, next question.
I thought that was great. That was a great answer. And because as you mentioned, there's just so much. There's not many things in the world like gaming where it can put a human being immediately, if not into a flow state, and with that being applied to so many different skills and industries, I feel like there really is no ceiling about what could actually happen.
There's no ceiling, dude. I'm telling you, like, because like, and the thing about games is, and you can ask the next question. The thing about games is, like, there's so many different ways to make a game, and so many different things that can come out of making a game. So many different applications for games. Games cause technological advancement. You know what I'm saying? Like, the first use case for VR as a technology, for example, is video games. It's like, sure, you can get into like, business applications and, learning opportunities, yada yada. But it's like, first, video games is going to test its chops first, and it's probably going to be like that for every type of technology that gets developed from this generation on out, right? The same thing's happening with AI. It's like, you apply it. Honestly, AI has been in games before even like this whole talk about like generative AI is even coming up. It's anyway, yeah. Keep going.
So, in what ways do you think funding the gaming industry can promote diversity, inclusion, and cultural representation in media?
Don't even get me started on this.
So
I'm sorry, bro. Like, so
much to say.
yeah, dude. So let me tell you. All right. Oh, this is a whole conversation. All right. Let me. I've been long-winded. Let me try to not be long-winded on this one. I'll just say that being a black man and seeing what the effects of history, of black history, has been on my people, one of my number one aspirations for game development and being a game developer and being a creative and being involved in a community is to essentially reface and rebrand the black culture. And that's to aspire to take all of the world's preconceptions about the black community in America and flip it on its head to being like, okay, instead of being like a a group of people that they know poverty, and like poverty is like where they come from. I want us to be seen as a group of people that innovate games, innovate media, a group of people that, and honestly, it's like, I mean, honestly, we should already be seen that way because the man who invented game cartridges for consoles was actually black. All right, I can't remember his name right now, but I want more of that. Within our community, people like me, innovating on stories and caricatures that can be displayed in games and media that get mass appeal to, create new relationships between the world and the black diaspora. And so, and part of my mission is to, inspire those around me that are in my community to go for the same thing and be like, yo, like you can do the same thing. Um, so there's a lot of work behind that, but getting game development into schools around where I'm from um, is going to be a big start to that. And a lot of that just goes into, hey, like put money into games, in Philadelphia again.
Thanks. Well, the
So,
funding there.
yeah.
And also to speak on what you spoke on a little bit earlier, which is so Gerald Lawson, 1940 to 2011, rest in peace, known as
Mm,
Jerry Lawson, an African American engineer who invented the video game cartridge, the father of the video game cartridge.
yeah. And and I'm telling you, I like I just wish it was known more. I wish it was like in the community more that this is the things that we've done.
Exactly.
You know,
And that's exactly why
yeah,
stuff like this is important.
yeah,
With
it
that being
is.
said, what infrastructure or resources do you believe the city should prioritize to foster a thriving gaming ecosystem?
Should prioritize. Um, so I've actually did a little bit of research on this. So in Korea, one of the reasons why gaming culture has been able to be very widespread in Korea as opposed to like Philadelphia is because back in, I think it was like the 1990s, 1980s, they had a culture of PC cafes. Um, and so that would be something that, since people didn't have like home PCs, um, uh, PC cafes were just huge, and it became kind of a much more like group activity to play games on PCs. It's just great entertainment. Um, and then eventually that grew once people started getting more like PC, like home PCs, right? That
Hmm.
grew into Korea investing into networking infrastructure. So like literally like whole cities like Seoul would have like high speed networking infrastructure meant for technologies, things like phones and of course PCs to always have great connection. And so with that transition, with like gaming cafes being popular, you know PCs of course immediately became popular and PC gaming became popular. um I don't think that culture ever really like dropped off. Like they still have PC cafes and like people will still come together and like um like have those connections. Um so when it comes to Philadelphia, I feel like we need to find what that will be for us. For example, something that I've thought of is like one of our problems is that being you know being urban and a lot of our population is urban and African American. Um, we have a lot of areas that are just like not affluent. They don't have a lot of access to PCs just like that. Like not everybody has a $3,000 like tank of a PC that can run Fortnite on 120 frames per second. So like and some if the city like found an entrepreneur that was like making a business out of like say like renting PCs for example, and like they supported and subsidized that business to be able to rent out PCs to these people who do not have the money to own their own PC. That would be a way to create infrastructure and change the city fundamentally in a way that would support gaming culture better. People would just be able to play games more. Um, and of course, you have things like gaming cafes. Maybe it wouldn't work the same way in Korea as it did for Philadelphia, as it would for Philadelphia, but that's the idea. It's like it's to find that thing for us that can promote gaming community and gaming growth. One thing that I see that would work for us potentially would be simply having like gaming attractions based around, say, like, and this is an idea that I got from someone in my community. Gaming attractions based on Philadelphia infrastructure. So like maybe like some VR attractions that are like teaching people about Philadelphia, or just like games that are about Philadelphia. Events. Yeah, I can keep going, dude. Next question.
I love that. I love that. How do you envision partnerships between local businesses, educational institutions, and the gaming community benefiting everyone involved?
Yeah. So the word that pops immediately into my head when you ask that question is serious games. Like I said before, games have so many applications. You can do one thing that games are really powerful with is being able to convey information. Their games have so many tools and ways to communicate when you're playing a game. They have sound, they have music, they have visuals, they have everything, dude. The games has everything it needs to communicate any information it needs. So any businesses that need an engaging way to convey information of any kind of way can be done with a video game. Actually, probably should be done with a video game. It would probably be the most effective way to communicate whatever a business wants to communicate. So we're talking about any industry. We're talking about health. We're talking about sports. We're talking about restaurants. We're talking about, like, they can all use something video game related. And that to me just sounds like an economy waiting to happen of studios based solely around making these attractions for these businesses.
Oh my
Same
God, I
thing.
love that.
You know what I'm saying? Same thing for educational institutions. Just you got to stop me, dude. It's like
No, and I appreciate what you're saying, because you got a lot of good things to say. So I just have been letting you go. But to add to what you said, like, yeah, I really do think it would come down to that aspect you mentioned, the serious games, and just allowing people to build not only job ready skills, but also potentially run simulations about how we can make the city as a whole better. To link back into what you said from the last question about infrastructure, like, well, no, one of the things I personally think Philly needs is we need better public transportation, and I think that is trains. We need more trains, truthfully. And we need more trains, and we need them more efficiently. And I think the best way to maybe go about doing that is like, well, create a game and let these kids figure out the most efficient and cost effective way to get new systems, true train lines up and running in the city, and see what they come up with.
make like a Philadelphia game, and it's like a freaking what do you call, like a management, like 4X game, like a strategy game
Yep.
where they get to, like, construct and change the city.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be really a I feel like it'd be really good about showing the power of gaming to different council members and people in Philadelphia's government, but also to just start getting ideas up and running. And more than anything, it is about having good ideas, but it's also about having momentum. And if people would love if kids came up with an idea that would genuinely benefit the city as a whole, and everyone else agreed with it, yeah, I could see that actually getting built because it would have the momentum behind it.
Yeah. Like it could be a thing where you can make it social, and the kids could like upload it to, like, a cloud, and people could look at it and vote on it.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I'm telling you.
So much. But speaking about that in the city and initiatives, what types of city-funded initiatives or programs would have the most immediate and lasting impact on local game developers?
City funded. So if we're talking about money, city funded, give game developers money. All right. Like, that is
Period.
point blank. Like, these are the people that create the economy. It's like they're the way that money comes in. So like, help people make games, finish games, get them launched, have them be competitive, and have them drive sales and bring money. Companies, right? So they can build a company and create jobs in a city, right? Creating jobs is what will, do everything for education. It'll be what allows like an education to job pipeline be built. And then another big thing, maybe even before that, would be to provide incentives for AAA studios to set up shop over here. Like literally create like targeted incentives. I mean, we talk about this in the task force. Like for any game studio that would see our city, like instead of just scrolling past our city on a list, it would be like instead like our city's name would be like in gold and like sparkling because we'd have crazy opportunities over here for these studios. Let's set it, and they set up a shop over here, and immediately, boom, you create jobs, and then everything that's said about education to workforce pipeline, start being able to set that up. They already have money. You get events. You get people already know about these studios. They come to see these studios. People. It's just freaking yeah. So those are the number two things. Incentives for AAA studios and money to independent developers.
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted. All right, so for our last question. For developers who want to contribute to the community's well-being through their games, what role can city support play in making that vision a reality?
You said for developers who want to contribute to community well-being through the games, what role can city support play in making that vision a reality?
Indeed.
What role can the city support play?
You touched on a couple of them.
In wellness. Can you remind me?
Well, just funding period, number one. Just so they can
What'd you
get the
say?
project funding period, so they can just get the project done. First off.
Okay.
Also.
So okay. So right. Okay.
And then there's like
What's
taxes
you about
and
to say?
tax breaks too.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to address specifically what you're talking about with you're asking about developers who want to contribute to community well-being through the games, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So okay. So like, for those developers, the city can offer targeted funding, funding programs for developers specifically who want to contribute to community well-being. It's like it's going to always be about money. For any developers who want to create a game that's about meditation or teaches about organization or teaches about communication, those can be themes that the city can look for, and anything that the city might want to promote in terms of community well-being. Those can have very specific targeted funding. And then also, I think a huge part of being developers and learning and becoming good developers is mentorship. So, of course, when you get the AAA studios over here, of course, that trickles down. You get the people with the talent over here, the years of experience at AAA studios, they can be mentors once they become the community. And teach these developers, and even particularly community well-being developers who want to promote community well-being, teach these developers how to create certain things that they want, how to communicate communication, how to communicate organization through games. And so of course, I'm gonna bump up PGM here. It's also very important to invest just in a community organization that is about developing community, because those are the centrifuges that build resources for these developers to one, learn what their audience needs in terms of well-being, for one, and then for two, be able to test their games against the community, right? So a community centrifuge, think of it like a town hall, as a way for developers to go to, and to go to and then learn where to direct themselves in the community to get what they want, to get what they need to know in order to make good games in general, and
Yep.
particularly good games about well-being, and test those against the community.
Indeed.
Yeah. So anything that allows an organization like PGM to help build more structure and organization around the community, help direct people from beginning to end, through the community, from people who have never touched game development all the way up to professionals, help them get connected in ways that they need to. All of that will promote the economy in general. It's endless, dude.
Yeah, that was a great answer. It was a great answer, and I think they gave a lot for us to digest and sit and think on. And
Mhm.
for anyone, um, who wants to learn more, I suggest going to PHL. You can find them on Instagram. If you can, you should go to one of their live events as well. Usually happen in the fall, and there's been 2 so far, but absolutely wonderful. With that being said, the reason I'm saying that is because they just released PHL Task Force booklet on what Philly can do in the context of improving and bettering the gaming industry in the city as a whole. And I just want to say, everybody, big thank you for the one and only Khenan for coming on and dropping so much knowledge and expanding upon this conversation.
Absolutely. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, dreaded_Draco. Very into fitness and health. And then you can also find PGM through PhillyGameMechanics.com. Again, that's PhillyGameMechanics.com. And through that website, you can find out more about our events, and the things that we're doing, the things we have planned. I highly recommend you join our Discord if you're interested in just keeping up with the community and learning about what people are doing and making connections. We got studios in there. We've got students, professionals. So it's a great place if you want to learn about game development in general. Anything else for me? Yeah, no, and just also follow my studio, Plot Armor Studios, on Instagram. That's Plot Armor_Studios, and keep an eye out for the games that we're making. All right, because I plan on making a few games this year, and my goal is to make a few small games that are competitive in the market, and kind of put into action some of the stuff that I've been saying in this interview. You know what I'm saying? So anybody anybody watching this, wish me luck. You feel me? And hopefully next year you see a bunch of black media from Plot Armor Studios.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, as for everyone else, as you know, follow at Tanamaste, TOONAMSTE, Tanamaste, so that way you can keep up to date with everything that's going on. And we will have to let y'all know once again. Thank you for pulling up to this. Thank you for spending your time with us, and I hope that you learned and are inspired by this entire conversation. With that being said, everyone, have a great night, morning, day, wherever you are in the world, and peace and love.